Hello, everyone, and welcome to another stream here. We've got today, this time we have, as you see, Eric joining us, as well as Eliot. And we're here to talk about the upcoming patch for Age of Empires 4, patch 11963. Rolls right off the tongue. So we will be talking about this patch and have Eric here to go over some of the details. This patch is coming later this week, and the notes are available actually right now on the Age of Empires blog, but we thought, as per usual, we're going to have Eric on here, and we're going to talk through some of these changes with Eric to understand what these might mean for you as players and what led to these changes from the balance team. Yeah, so as mentioned, I'm Grant, one of the community managers here at Relic, working on Age of Empires 4. And as you can see beside me and below me are Eliot and Eric. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome.
Yeah,
Thanks
hello,
for having
everybody.
me, guys.
Of course. Thanks for joining us. As always, Eric, we always appreciate you taking the time to join us here on stream. Yeah, like we released the patch notes just a little under an hour and a half ago.
Yeah, they're
So
super
that
fresh.
people can, yeah, super duper fresh. And as Grant mentioned, this is something that we love to do because I know we've put the developers' notes in these patch notes. But it's always great to have you, Eric, on to talk a little bit more about the reasoning behind it. I know the developer notes are great, but like you often have a little more insight as to why these either decisions were made or what direction we're heading, especially with our meta and our balance. So, yeah, without further ado, why don't we start getting into it and then we can start talking about it.
Yeah.
Is my camera hitching for you guys on
Yes,
Twitch?
it is. I
It
see it. I
is,
see it on
yeah.
my end. Give me
Yeah.
1 second. I'm gonna try to just do a
I-
quick refresh of your camera
Yeah.
cache. I'm not sure what happened. We are in the exact same situation as we always have been. Nothing has changed with these webcams, but as tech loves to do, it's misbehaving just a little bit. I saw Elias do it too. We'll refresh his. All right.
Yeah.
Hopefully that means we
Okay,
see both
'cause
of
it's
you
like-
and you don't freeze, but
It's like working, right?
it was
And then
beautiful. You had like a
as soon
perfect.
as I close my eyes, right? As soon as I
Close your
blink,
eyes and a
that's-
perfect smile.
Right.
All right, we'll see if this keeps you going. If not, I might have to refresh these a little bit, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah, so we definitely you can head on over to the blog if you want to read them yourselves, but you probably want to stick around for the little bit right now. We're going to talk about this, and as we usually say, if you're interested in joining and being part of the community, you can share feedback, report things like bugs and glitches, all of that on the Age of Empires forums. You can join there, and if you want to be part of the community and look for matches, talk with other people from Age of Empires and all of that, we also have the Discord as well, which is we're close to, I think, 60,000. I could be wrong. I'm just going to take a quick look here. But then we're going to hop right into the patch note discussion here.
All right, sounds good.
All
Okay.
right. All right. So yeah, let's see. I guess, Elliot, if you want to lead off from some of these first notes, we're just going to start from the top of the patch notes and work our way down here.
Yeah, for sure. So why don't we do the quick preamble, the intro part? I mean, this is just generalizing what the patches are. One thing of note that we definitely want to call out, though, is that we noticed that there was changes made to Siege that really did overly impact the Chinese. So we made some changes around that, as well as, there's, like I said, there is some additional stuff that happened with the Mongols and Delhi Sultanate, which we'll dive further into as we get to the civilization parts. But yeah, why don't we get right into the general part, Grant? Or sorry, I'm taking this on.
You are taking that part.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, it mixed it up.
It's
I was
just like I had it to
perfect
you, you had it
timing,
to
got
me.
it right now.
Why don't we just
Yeah.
hand it to Eric
This
too?
is-
Eric, just
okay.
take us.
If this is any proof, I know sometimes chat has been like, "Is this pre-recorded?" This is definitely not pre-recorded because obviously
That's
we're
how
here
you
live.
know.
Yeah, we're
That's
live.
why Eliot did that. He knew exactly what was supposed to happen.
Oh my god, let's not
Just
build
watch
up
the pre-recorded,
conspiracies
guys.
here.
Yeah.
All right, okay. Anyways, moving on to the general notes. So I think this is a big one that's definitely changed, especially in notes. Is a big one here is that the wonder cost is increased from 3,000 per resource to 6,000. There's been additional increases also to the Mongol wonder, which we'll see below in the Civ portion. But yeah, I'll read out the developer note and then Eric maybe can provide a little more insight. But basically, wonders are meant to be a rare yet exciting stalemate breaker. We found that the costs are too low in larger multiplayer games where allies can just basically funnel everything into one single player, get the wonder up, and often you're not ready to, siege your enemy wonder because by then they'll you don't have an army or you're not ready at that point, which then kind of puts increased cost does help solve the issue because then it kind of paces out to the game where it's really meant to be kind of a stalemate breaker, but it does definitely put further reach for 1v1 and 2v2 matches. So I think in a future update we will plan to implement a scaling cost so it's a valid option regardless of what we play. So yeah, Eric, do you want to go into a little bit more about wonders and just kind of what we've been seeing so far?
Yeah. And so to reiterate a little bit on the developer note, right? Like, we don't want players to be building wonders every single game, right? Like, it's a wonder of the world. It's this huge, crazy thing, right? So it should be something you'll see on occasion, but not every game. And we found that like with the current costs, basically in bigger multiplayer games like 4v4 and stuff, it was kind of just a rush to see whoever could build the wonder first, especially on like the more of the choke pointy, like stalemate kind of maps where it's like a big long macro game. Is whichever team got the wonder first, they would just win the game basically because there wasn't enough time to cross the map and the resource commitment wasn't high enough to like put you at a disadvantage. So if you're spending a huge amount of resources, then you don't have a big army to defend the wonder and you don't have a lot of keeps and stuff like that. But the cost was kind of just too low. So we like the solution for the bigger team games, but this means now in a 1v1, it's 6,000 for each resource to build a wonder, right? And it was already pretty hard to build the wonder because you didn't have teammates to help you out and slow the enemy down and stuff like that. So in the future, yeah, we are looking for a way to either scale it up on like player count or map size, something like that. So you can have a cheaper wonder, if you're doing like a 1v1 map, but if you're doing a big 4v4 game, then the cost would scale up there.
Gotcha. And that being said, in the 1v1, 2v2 matches, there's often other ways to contest still. There's still the sacred sites, right? So there's not like you're completely stuck with just a stalemate if you can't siege your opponents and get, break through their defenses. So there's a way to still get them to come out of their base and basically challenge you in the map. So it's not like you're out of options, but yeah, definitely, like I said, as you said, we're going to be looking to implementing something scaling down the road so that it makes sense for other game modes, right? So, okay. And then another big change here is the Stonewall build time increased from 8 seconds to 16 seconds with additional adjustments made to Delhi Sultanate build time, which we'll see below in the Civ notes. Yeah, basically, yeah, Eric, do you want to get into the notes and then kind of explain a little bit there, or do you want me to read the notes, or?
Yeah, I can do sort of like a develop summary on that, or a summary of the summary, right? A summary inception. Yeah. So like sort of the key gist of it, right, is just like stone walls are extremely powerful because they can't be attacked by infantry and cavalry. And you can also build the stone walls pretty quickly, right? Like at only 8 seconds per section. That's not a lot of time for the enemy to be able to like respond and stop you from building this stone wall. So we looked at adjusting the time because we wanted to be more counterplay. When you see the walls go up, you have time to actually like attack the villagers and kill them before they complete the walls. So we definitely have more plans in the future though to adjust this because we've seen a lot of players where they'll start building the wall and then they'll move to the next section, so they won't fully complete that one wall section. So in general, we just want there to be more options to dealing with stone walls, and this is sort of our first step, is giving you more time. When you see the enemy start putting up the stone wall, you can still kill the villagers and like get past into their base.
Gotcha. Okay.
Oh yeah, and then
makes a lot
one
of sense.
other real quick piece of this too is it was also really powerful being able to rebuild your stone walls, especially like later in the game. You have a lot of resources. You could have multiple villagers, and the enemy would break down your stone wall, and then you could just build a piece of it back immediately. And so you couldn't actually get into their base sometimes because they just kept rebuilding the stone wall. So it helps with that issue as well.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you for the insight there. Yeah, excited to see how it plays out when I hop into play. So definitely I've been one of those who panic build walls to kind of stop defenses. So this is definitely
The nerf
I totally
Eliot
understand.
patch, actually. Everything in here. We just watch Eliot play and nerf him.
I mean, like, it's something we'll talk a little bit more later, but yeah, definitely, it's playing the game, like, it's, as someone who does need defenses sometimes, definitely I've been guilty of this. And especially when I play, I've played some free for all matches with friends, and like they'll be like, wait a second, Elliot's got all the relics, let's go after him. And I'll be quickly like building walls after walls and rebuilding and taking on. Yeah. So T West is asking where Zach is. Zach's unfortunately unable to make it this week, so he won't be here. But in a future update or stream, we'll have him on.
Yeah,
He's just
he was
not
planning on
available
coming,
today.
right?
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
had like
exactly.
prepared a little bit, but
Yeah, that's actually why we had the fourth window here. But unfortunately, Zach just wasn't able to make it today, so we had to fill the space up.
But he will
But
be
yeah,
back.
keep moving.
Zach will be back.
Yeah. Zach will be back. And
Maybe
see, we're
Zach
also
stock Pepe
clearly we're
that
reading chat.
window,
Okay,
and
so
just
anybody
make
who's
stuff.
doubting, again, we are reading chat. Okay, if there is questions, we'll see if we can address some of them as we go along. If not, we'll try to save them for the end of the stream. But yeah, okay. So the next point is we made improvements to the bug where elephant attack animation cooldowns could be passed, resulting in much higher damage than intended. This is the animation canceling that we started addressing last patch, I believe, or last two patches now. So this one as well. Anything to add to that, Eric?
No, it's really just a bug fix. So.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Okay, and then the last one is we fixed a crash that occurred when observing the game at 8 times speed. So that should help resolve that issue there. All right. Moving on to maps. So I think this is a pretty big one here, but we are removing three things: Boulder Bay, Confluence, and Black Forest from the 1v1 quick match map pool. They can still be selected for custom games as well as for team-based quick matches, but for the 1v1 pool, we've removed these three. Yeah, summary of the dev notes, Eric.
The most important part about this, I would say, is that in the spring update, I almost said patch, but I got myself. The spring update, we have quite a few balance changes to the maps, so we will be kind of reintroducing them with some extra bells, whistles, sparkles, polish, all that kind of good stuff. So this is sort of just a temporary type of fix until we get that type of stuff cleaned up and like in really nice shape for people to play.
Oh, did we lose? There we go. Lost Eric for a moment.
Yeah, I had to bring him back.
Good?
His camera was disappearing again.
Gotcha.
Hopefully this fixes it. If not, we're gonna have some troubleshooting after the stream. We'll try to fix this for next time. Again,
I can try refreshing it on my end.
It's not on your end. It's Eliot's was doing it too. Nothing's changed.
Yeah,
we're doing the same thing.
It is what it is.
It's how technology works.
Let's just keep moving forward.
Yep, let's do it.
Yeah. I think the key thing here, though, right, Eric, is that we're obviously listening to sentiment and listening to the community talking, and it's we're always reading through feedback. So if you guys continue to provide feedback, we are like I said, we're always reading through it and getting the whole getting it out to the team. Just because we don't address it right away doesn't mean we're ignoring anything. It just means that oftentimes we are compiling the information combined with the telemetry that we track when people play the game. So all that combined helps us kind of inform some of these steps, not just for like maps, but also for balance and for other updates, right? So continue to do so, and we will keep monitoring. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's definitely not just map balance, right, but like game balance as well, right? So
Mhm.
naval has definitely been something that we're interested in spending more time in, and we've
Mhm.
got kind of a couple fixes coming in like the spring update and more bigger stuff on the horizon for naval.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I do see in chat someone saying we've definitely been reading the forums with the changes coming. Yes, that is 100% true. If you have any feedback, the forums are a great place to put it. We do read through all of that. We share it with the team, and it is very, very important to all of us. Yeah. All right. So I think we're good to hop on to the next section, which we have some of the Civ-specific changes that are coming.
Yep.
All right. So one of the first few changes we'll talk about are with the Chinese Civ. So we fixed a bug where the nest of bees would stop firing once its initial target died. Seems somewhat straightforward, but Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, I actually probably have quite a bit to say about this one, even though it's kind of straightforward. So like in general, we want all of the Civ unique units to feel like exciting standout moments, and like sort of a way to be like, yeah, I'm glad I picked this civilization because I can do this special thing that no one else can, right? And the Chinese having the nest of bees instead of the mangonel, right? It needs to be a really cool, awesome, fun unit to use. And you'll see this sort of trend we're working towards, not just for this update, but the spring update and going forward as well. That the first couple patches that we did, we were really sort of nailing down the core balance of a lot of things, right? Of like the siege gameplay and like adjusting health values and armor for like horsemen and crossbows doing more damage, right? Like we did a whole bunch of stuff with the core experience to get that feeling really good. And now our next sort of major focus is getting all the unique pieces for the civilizations to feel good. So the nest of bees, um, sorry, while this is like a bug fix, it actually makes a huge difference on your usage of the unit and how it like feels and its impact on the battlefield. Because the nest of bees, it's firing all these rockets, right? And you generally are gonna get to see 8 rockets get fired from this thing. But if you fire 1 rocket and then you have a knight kill your target, it just stops and it just doesn't fire the rest of the 7 rockets at all. So there were quite a few cases where it was significantly underperforming from what the sort of expected payload it would be delivering. So this makes the unit a lot more useful, and we're definitely like really excited to see people building some nests of bees in this next update patch. Right.
One day, Eric, one day.
One of these days, I'll get it.
All right, moving on. This one, definitely, I'm sure we'll expand on a little bit, but there are a bunch of Imperial officer and tax changes. It sounds like so. If you want to elaborate on that.
Yeah, so we're sort of like going for a bit of a new play pattern with the Imperial official, where the player will pick a building to supervise, and get their researches done fast, or like produce some units really quickly. And while they're doing that, the taxes will be building up. And once the taxes are at a nice high level, they can stop supervising and have it run around and collect a whole bunch of taxes and sort of like drain out the taxes from the buildings, and then they can go back to supervising. So it's kind of like a cyclical pattern, to sort of rotate between those two different play styles based on what's going on in the game state, what do you need, all that kind of good stuff. And then also of note, like this is also just a buff as well, right? Because instead of collecting 20 tax at a time, he's collecting 40. So he can spend a lot less time running around getting taxes. He's gonna give you that gold much, much faster. Like a lot of times some of the buildings, you could build up like 400, taxes, and it would take a long time to get all that money out of the building and into your coffers. So the unit is just in general much more efficient at collecting taxes, and it makes the there's some notes here about the Imperial Academy that are also pretty cool. That sort of go with this piece. So in general, there's more strategic play around like where you place the Imperial Academy, and that upgrade, the Imperial Examinations technology, is a lot more valuable and a lot more effective to purchase. So it makes sort of timing that a lot more interesting because it has a much greater effect on the gameplay.
Yep. And sorry, just want to note, BCQT, thank you for the raid. Thank you all for joining us here. We're here to chat about the patch notes that we just rolled out today for the next upcoming patch for Age of Empires 4. For those who haven't seen or heard from Eric, Eric is one of our balance leads. Great all-around guy and super insightful on all the stuff that he is doing to change and update the game. So we appreciate you having time to sit down with us. Welcome everybody who's joining us. And right now we're just going through the patch notes together. So yeah.
Yeah. And just to note, it is not only Eric making these changes. This is not all of Eric's doing, even though he is a powerhouse. He has an entire balance team he works with, as well as some of our other team members as well. But we love having Eric on stream. He's super happy to join at any time. We do also, for some of these streams, we also have Zach join us. He's unable to join today, so it's the two of us, myself and Eliot, and then Eric as well here from the balance team talking about this. Yeah, so we can continue along. I think that covers most of the changes for the Chinese there. I know the changes are kind of broken down into a few different categories there. Next up, we have the Delhi Sultanate.
Real quick, if you wanted to read the Imperial Official section.
Imperial Official section? Yeah, definitely, I can hop into that.
So, yeah, that's a pretty big change up here.
Yeah, I thought we kind of covered some of this, but I can definitely hop into that point for sure. So the supervised bonus for the Imperial Official has increased from 150% back to the original 200%. And as the note says, thanks to everyone who called this out after our last patch.
And I just wanted to reiterate about this change in particular. Is this change was basically part of the spring update, because there's like a huge amount of really dramatic changes coming to China that will make them more powerful. So we basically had to nerf them because they were just like winning every game with all these like awesome buffs that we had given them. But since they don't have the buffs yet, right, we want to keep it at the 200%, and then in the spring patch we will be going back to the 150. So just in case there was any confusion there, that's the plan. That's what's happening.
Yep.
All right. Do you want to cover? We kind of covered some of the rest of these points on the Imperial Academy as well already, right, Eric? So do we want to just hop down to Delhi, or do you want to cover these specific bullet points as well?
Yeah, we can just move to Delhi.
All right. I mean, I can read these off just to get those off for people on the stream, and we'll hop to Delhi. So for Imperial Academy, the Imperial Examinations Technology bonus to tax carry capacity has increased from 40 to 80 gold, and there's now a tax drop-off location for the Imperial Official. Yeah, so moving on, Delhi Sultanate, their infantry stone wall gate build time.
Wait. Sorry.
All right, you're going to stop me for a second here again. You're like, wait a second.
I was like, no, just skip this. And then you read it. I was like, oh.
Don't skip this. Never mind. We got to talk.
No, you may. That's a good point, though, because the way you said that, it actually, I don't think it specifically mentions in here that the base taxes is increased, right? So instead of holding 20 taxes, you're holding 40 at base. And then the tech will now double that. So the tech, you'll go from 40 to 80. So okay. just so you know. Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it is the one above. Yeah. So the tax carry capacity has increased from 20 to 40.
Okay.
Yeah. And now with this technology bonus, the new bonus, it goes from 40 to 80. That makes sense.
Got it. Nice.
Awesome. Delhi Sultanate for real this time, everyone. So their infantry stone wall gate build time has increased from 30 seconds to 60 seconds. Eric, if there's anything you want me to stop at, let me know. Otherwise, I'll just keep going until we hit these developer notes, because I feel like these are probably good spots to talk about. Starting wood has been reduced from 250 to 200, so there's a 50 reduction on that.
Yeah, so in general, we wanted the infantry to be building stuff slower, the Delhi infantry, right? So they build the stone walls slower, and then they also build the stone gates slower. The starting wood, we had, sort of they have more wood than the other civs, right? And the reason they were starting with that 250 was that they could build. We wanted people to be able to build the mosque and make it easier to incorporate into builds, because we were seeing people weren't building the mosque, and it's like, well, if you have the extra wood, then you'd really be incentivized to build the mosque. But now with that hindsight, extra information we have, right? We have seen the true power of the mosque and how awesome these technologies are that Delhi can get super early in the game. So we wanted there to be more trade-offs in your build if you're going to create this mosque early. And then also on water maps, the Delhi kind of just had an advantage with this extra wood. They could just throw it on a dock sooner and start making fishing ships sooner. So this sort of makes them commit more to different strategic paths where they are kind of able to go in multiple directions at the same time without, extra commitment or gathering of extra resources. And also in general, we've just seen with like the berry changes that we had made previously, we've seen Delhi win rates being pretty darn good. They've been performing higher than 50% win rate at the top level. So we also wanted to try to bring that down a little bit.
All right. Next up on the list, the Sanctity bonus gold has been reduced from 100% to 50%.
Yeah, so Sanctity, we've changed this one quite a bit actually, and it's a very high impact type of technology, which is great, right? Like we want all the technologies should change the game in a really interesting way for both players, right? Like that's a great thing for technologies to be doing. But this one, it's sort of too dramatic in terms of who wins or loses the game, because if you're able to capture all three of the sacred sites early, that's 300 gold per minute, and then it gets doubled with the Sanctity tech, right? So you're getting 600 gold per minute. So it's just such a huge advantage. It's kind of it can be too difficult for anyone to overcome, because with that much gold, you can either build a market and then use that to get a bunch of food and wood and stone and stuff and build defenses around those and just sort of like really lock it down and secure it, or you can go to Castle Age like without even having to like have any miners on gold at all, right? So it just gives them like a lot of flexibility and a lot of power with this strategy. So we wanted to sort of tone down how dramatic it was if you were able to capture sacred sites, and especially if you were able to get multiple sacred sites.
All right. I think, unless you want to stop me this time, Eric, I think we're good to move on to Mongols.
You know I do, but I won't. I'll keep it together.
All right. So the wonder cost for Mongols has increased from 4,000 of each resource to 8,000. That's quite a large jump there.
Yeah, I mean,
you probably want to talk about this.
It's basically just a doubling, right? The other one was doubled, and this one is doubled as
Yeah.
well.
Mongol Ovo. I
Ovu.
suck at pronouncing that. Ovu stone generation is no longer a flat 105 per minute. It now automatically scales by age of 80, 100, 120, and then 150 stone per minute.
Yeah,
oh no, I see chat going ooh woo. This is no chat.
Yeah, bad chat.
We're gonna have to time out all of chat.
Yeah, totally not another chat person there that said ooh too. No.
Totally not.
Not in that. Not joining the chat there. No. Anyways, sorry. We're so this big change here with the scaling.
Yeah, and
Right.
as we have Beastie Cuties audience here, these are some pretty sharp cats. So you guys have probably realized that we have changed Mongols more than any of the other civs in the past couple of updates and patches and stuff that we've done. And the general philosophy, right, was that we wanted to like have a bunch of buffs to the other civs instead of just like nerf hammer the Mongols. And we still have those buffs, but they're in the spring update, so they are coming, and we have a bunch of like really dramatic and cool things for the other civs. But in the meantime, we basically moved all of the nerfs that we had planned for the Mongols into these updates, and we've sort of been doing sort of a smaller number of changes to the Mongols each time, and sort of like chipping away. And we have seen like the win rates have been going down over time, but the Mongols are still performing really, really well in a lot of the matchups, and they just have a ton of different really nice advantages that they have over the civs. So with this Uvu one and the sort of the stone scaling, because the Mongols are kind of like a snowball civilization, right? Where if they can burn down some of your buildings, they can get extra resources, which allows them to like make a bigger army. You know, it kind of just keeps going and picks up speed. So we wanted to slow them down specifically in the early game with this, so they're getting less stone early on, so they can't make quite can't throw quite as many spearmen or whatever it is at you for an early rush. But then later game, you'll actually see that it's a higher amount of stone that was producing before. So this makes the Ovo a lot more exciting and interesting to have later on in the game, because as you got like a really big economy, getting only 100 stone per minute, you couldn't really do much with that. That was like less than a unit every minute, and especially since some of those stone techs are quite expensive. So this makes it a lot more useful later in the game when the Mongols tend to struggle, because of the fact that they don't have keeps and they don't have walls to keep the enemies out of their base.
All right. The damage of the Castle Age Khan has been reduced from 12 to 8.
Yes. So the Khan has always supposed to have been a group support unit. And so he's got these arrows, and these arrows provide a really strong buff to your entire army, being able to get like a huge amount of like attack speed, armor, movement speed, right? All these really nice things. So that's why he has like a really large range, and that's why he has a really high health pool, so that he can sit in the back of the army, and and he kind of is like overseeing everything, and he's not like getting focus fired, right? Like if he had a melee weapon, the enemy could just like right click with their whole army and kill him really fast, right? So he's sort of supposed to be more in the back, sort of managing and commanding things. So we like that he has high armor and high health, but his damage value is too high to fit that role, and especially when people go to like a fast castle build with the Mongols, and they're able to get this 12 damage per shot on this horseman that has 300 health. He can fire while moving, right? It can be really difficult to deal with that, and in a lot of different situations, like against HRE, he's really good at like picking off the prelates who are running around and just sort of running him around the back of enemies' bases, picking off villagers, and then like he can use the speed arrow if he ever sort of gets in trouble as well. So we bumped his damage down a pretty healthy amount with this update, so that he's less of a sort of damage dealing and harasser unit, and fits more into the intended vision we had for him of being an army support type of general hero.
All right, and that brings us to the last of the Civ changes here for the Mongols. The YAM and YAM network movement speed bonus time reduced from 20 to 10 seconds.
Yeah, the YAM network is a really cool bonus for the Mongol, and the intent has always been that you want to build like a YAM network, right, where you're building multiples of this outpost, and it's kind of like simulating the Mongols would like carry mail across their empire from station to station, and they had to build a whole bunch of these stations. They had like thousands of them throughout their empire. But in our game, because the aura sticks for so long, you really only need to build like one or two, and it covers like a huge amount of the map. So we wanted A, to have a tighter balance on it, and B, sort of fit that historic and flavor theme where you need to build a bunch of these around the map if you want to be able to like persistently get this benefit for your troops. So that's why we've reduced the time from 20 to 10 seconds for this movement speed bonus.
All right, and that brings us to the next section. I will let you handle Eliot on what's next.
Yeah, for sure. So so we put a portion here called the what's next section. It's kind of just a forward-looking thing for the community to look at, and what the balance team is kind of eyeing and have in their radar. I think the big ones here we did provide was about the Absid Dynasty, the Chinese, and the Holy Roman Empire. I'll just do a quick summary for one, and then we can talk maybe we'll do civ by civ, Eric. That would probably be a little easier than us summarizing 3 of them and then talking about all 3. If that's okay
Love
with
it.
you. Okay, so the Abbasid Dynasty itself, um, the unique units of Civ should stand out from its roster and be exciting to build. And while camels, I know we talked about this before, but uh, there is definitely going to be some work being done on the camels as a whole across the board. The goal obviously is to not make them, an exclusively camel only army. Like we definitely are big about the rock paper scissors balance, as well as making sure that you are creating a diverse army because that'll help you engage your enemy based on what they've got. Um, and so with that, it's looking to make them more effective to mix into your army as a whole for the Abbasid dynasty. So I know that's one portion that we're looking to tackle, as well as looking to have a more strategic choice per age on which wing of the House of Wisdom you decide to go with, right? Because that will um, create some more incentives for people to adjust and scout, especially once they scout and find what their enemy opponents are up to, is to be able to adapt to that, right? So we're looking to make some changes here so that there's different power levels to the tech, moving to different tiers, and reducing costs where it's necessary, right? So yeah, do you want to provide a little more around the Abbasid dynasty?
Yeah, there's a lot here. This summary covers quite a bit of changes.
Mm-hmm.
So with the camels, basically what we've done is because like a lot of times, you have this really interesting like the camel rider unit, but if the enemy doesn't build any cavalry, it's like, well, I just never get to make my special unit, right? And like the animators put a lot of care and time and love into like animating them and getting
Mm-hmm.
them to feel and look right. So like we want when you're playing the Abbasid, like I want to make camels, right? And not necessarily I'm just gonna make like 100 camels, but like I really want to have some camels in my army, like kind of regardless of what the enemy is doing. So we brought down the bonus damage of the camels and then brought up the base damage that they're doing. So they're a lot more effective now, and because they're fast, right? They're a lot more effective as like raiding units and just like having a couple in your army. It's not like, oh, I'm like losing a lot of DPS by having these units now. So it definitely feels a lot more rewarding and fun to play Abbasid and just get to like make camels, right? Like you just kind of want to have some camels now. And that sort of goes along what we were talking about earlier, right? With I think I froze, like making a funny expression
Mm-hmm.
again.
It
um,
happens. This is
we
the
were
stream that's
talking,
going to happen with that.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
just
yeah.
roll with it at this point.
I might just start just like freezing in the middle,
Just
just
freeze on purpose.
cause
Just
yeah,
pause.
right. Yeah. So this goes back to what we are talking about a bit earlier, right? With the Chinese and like the nested bees, and it's like, oh yeah, I think this like really unique mangonel replacement. This should be like a cool, awesome thing that is fearsome for the enemies, right? It's like, oh no, he's got nested bees, right? Um, so camels also should be fitting that bill. And then with the House of Wisdom, maybe I could give them like a little bit of a spoiler on like one of the changes that we have proposed. Would that be okay, community guys?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what
I don't
you're
know what. I'm
spoiling.
a
So
little. Yeah.
yeah, sure, Eric. What is it?
Sure, sure. I was just gonna say, like, for example, something we've done in
Yeah.
terms of like creating more interesting early game choices with the House of Wisdom is that the
Hmm.
military wing, we've moved
Hmm.
the army infantry army training tech
Hmm.
into the first tier.
Okay.
So now you can get that 15% extra hit points on your infantry starting at the very beginning of the game. And then we made that tech a lot cheaper, right? So it's
Hmm.
affordable. And then we've moved back the camel support tech because like early on you didn't necessarily have the resources to build as many camels and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
And because that tech is now later, we could actually make it more powerful because it's an
Gotcha.
H4, it's a lot of resources, so that
Gotcha.
actually provides more melee and ranged armor than it used to. So
Yeah.
I definitely like
Okay.
really been having a lot of fun building that wing now with the
Okay.
Abbasid.
I was gonna say if you kept the camel support tech where it is, that sounds like a recipe for just overly buffing the infantry. Because obviously, for those who don't play a lot of Abbasid, the camels do help buff up your infantry, which also is great to have. Again, this is why we strongly emphasize when you're playing, having mixed army compositions really helps with being able to tackle on the whole wide variety of whatever your opponent has to defend against whether your attack or for you to be able to ward off any attacks that come your way. So, okay, that's just definitely going to change some stuff up. That great spoiler, by the way. Seems like
Yeah.
chat's pretty happy to hear that. But
Right. Love it.
all right,
Who doesn't like a good spoiler, right? I mean, come on.
yeah. I mean, it just makes us nervous. Yeah, heart
Yeah.
rate goes up a little bit. It's like,
Just a little bit.
You're like, oh, I don't.
Yeah,
What is this
we
guy
might
gonna
need like
say?
a heart rate monitor on stream next time. As you like, can I talk about blank? I'm just like,
I mean, even on the Relic stream, like we talked about getting a heart rates like monitor because like when we play games like Alien Isolation or something, just to see what kind of jump scares create the heart
don't
rate
worry,
spikes. You know?
we'll have it
Yeah.
one day. One day.
Yeah, one day. Maybe when we're back in the studio, maybe we can
I
get
figured it
that,
out, but we just need a good time to do it.
Yeah, no, for sure. Okay, let's move on to the Chinese now. So the
Yeah.
Chinese dynasty system is obviously it's a super unique and fun way to advance and kind of custom build your empire with the Chinese based on either your play style or your teammate composition or your opponents and what they're up to. But obviously, there are some frustrating parts that we are looking to adjust while increasing the overall relevancy of some of the various unlocks. So, special units and buildings unlocked by Dynasty will always be buildable once they're unlocked. In addition, we're moving we're moving all the Dynasty buildings up on age so they become available at the phase of the game when they're most needed. Uh, Pretty big change up here, Eric. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more on what we're doing here?
Yeah. So specifically about like the buildings, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
we found that by the time you unlocked these unique buildings, it was like sort of past the phase of the game where you wanted to like sort of plan and really utilize them. So moving the village into the Dark Age, you can like set it up around locations where you want to protect and garrison your villagers, and then moving the granary up to the basically the feudal age dynasties, right? Like that's more the time when you get that dynasty is more when you want to be building that network of farms, and like it's a big building, right? So having you leave these like huge holes, for 10 minutes later in the game, like that's not really a feasible thing for people to do. So now you can, when you're setting up your farming network, you can just be putting those granaries down, and you can have like a really nice Venn diagram where you have like the 3 granaries with like a whole bunch of farms and that like those middle sections, and it feels really good to set that up and plan it early in the game. And then the last one is the pagoda, and generally in the castle age, that's when you're collecting and getting all these relics, right? So having to wait for the imperial age and then building another landmark was like way too late in the game to get value out of the pagodas. So we've moved the pagodas up, and then done some tweaking and balancing too around these things, right? Because the pagodas were providing like a huge amount of resources. So when we initially had made this change, you were just getting flooded. You like couldn't even spend the resources fast enough if you were able to get a full like 3 pagodas with relics. So it makes these buildings, you build them a lot more. They're a lot more like integrated into your strategy, and they're like really fun to use. So this is sort of part of the reason, right, why we had to make this change the official, because they're just sort of like in general like getting more resources because they're able to use these buildings really effectively a lot earlier in the game.
Gotcha. And just for clarification, Courager, I'm gonna say this right now. If we mispronounce your gamer tag or Twitch name, yeah, sorry. But just
How
want
dare
to
you?
get clear clarification as to what do you mean by moving up in age? What does that mean specifically for the landmarks, dynasty landmarks?
Um, so basically the dynasty that you start the game in, that gives you like the movement speed to the scouts, that you can now create a village like at the very beginning of the game,
Gotcha.
just because you started that
Gotcha.
dynasty.
Gotcha.
And then
Yeah.
the next dynasty that you achieve, you'll be in feudal age. So
Gotcha.
they're all basically moved up one dynasty from where they are
Gotcha.
currently.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. All right. So that's the Chinese. What's ahead for the Chinese? The last one is the Holy Roman Empire. So with civs, with all the civs that we've designed and have in the game, one of the biggest things that we've been always focused on is being able to create and give players strategic choice to choose from throughout the course of the game. Having just funneling or having where there's too much power in the late game, especially specifically with the landmarks for the HRE, it kind of creates repetitive gameplay. You're kind of just doing the same builds or heading towards that similar direction. So we're going to be looking to create more interesting decision making among the landmark choices for the HRE, and then give them stronger options for play in the early game. I'm personally interested in this because I am an HRE like one trick, as people like to call it. I pretty much just play the HRE. I might dabble into a little bit into the other civs, but HRE is kind of my go-to. So, what do you have in like what does this really mean that like we're looking at for the HRE here?
This is gonna be a little bit disruptive to your one trick then. These sort of change ups. So sort of focus on the landmarks with this chat then. So like the Regnitz is like the really exciting landmark that everyone wants to go for. You get the 3 relics in there, and then you're getting 900 gold per minute, right? Which is like crazy awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And HRE also, with the whole relic mechanic, right? They actually get gold no matter where they put the relics, right? If you put it in a keep or a tower or a monastery, it always, will be generating gold for you. And when you put it in the keeps and the towers, it's also giving you extra damage on those buildings, and it's giving you extra range, right? So generally players are putting all the relics into the Regnitz, and they're not getting to interact as much with this whole like really fun garrisoning mechanic that the HRE has. And then like they have the emergency repair, right? So then you have like stronger towers, and you can click this thing to repair, right? Like there's this really cool synergy stuff, but you generally don't get to experience it because you're just throwing all your relics in the Regnitz every game. So we're sort of like bringing down the power of the Regnitz and letting you only put 2 relics in it instead of 3. So now if you capture those 3, you would have like an extra one, and you can sort of move it around or put it tactically wherever makes the most sense. And then we also wanted to provide a more interesting choice, nerfing that. We wanted the other one to really be able to shine in certain moments and in certain matchups and stuff like that, right? So the other one, the Burgrave Palace, where it builds the infantry 5 at a time, right? Which is there's a couple of reasons that's kind of challenging, right? Like the theme is I'm getting 5 barracks, but it's actually worse than getting 5 barracks, because if you had 5 barracks, you could actually choose like, oh, I want 2 spearmen, and I want like a Landsknecht, and I want a man at arms, right? But this, you have to commit to 5 units, and you have to have all the resources up front to be able to do this, right? So if you have 1 or 200 resources, you could queue up a couple of spearmen, and they'd be done in 15 seconds. Whereas this, you have to wait until you have like a huge chunk of resources, and then you're committing to the 5 spearmen. So it actually was less flexibility than just having 5 barracks. So we kind of applied the lessons learned from the council hall on the English, where it's a lot more fun and rewarding if it just speeds things up. And so we went pretty big on this, right? It's supposed to be 5 barracks. So it now trains at 5 times the speed of a single barracks.
Gotcha.
So that means that man at arms, instead of taking or spearmen, just because the math is easier on this, right? 5 times as fast. So spearmen, instead of training in 15 seconds, you can train a spearman in 3 seconds. So you can just crank those bad boys out if you want. And it also applies, because it's a barracks, it applies to all the technologies that you research at the barracks, right? So it enables some really interesting timing pushes where you can get a whole bunch of these upgrades really fast and a bunch of troops out really quickly. So it really opens up the strategic possibilities of Civ, and we're just like really excited to see all the cool things people do with this.
All right. Well, I will look forward to it, but also it sounds like I might have to branch out a little as well.
You're gonna try some new things, but I think you're gonna like the way you look in this suit.
I mean, I think the community will see what I would mean later on as to why I'm bringing that up, but we'll leave it at that. So that is the entirety of the patch notes here. We've got anything that gets added when we do release out the patch notes, we will put it at the very top of the patch notes with an editor's note. That's what we've done with the past patch notes. Is there anything else you want to quickly touch upon, Eric, before we wrap things up here? And also, chat, if you have any questions, we do have a little bit of time for some questions. mostly we'll focus on stuff that's been covered in the patch notes here. So if you have anything specific within there, please let us know. Otherwise, we'll look forward to providing you guys more updates with the weeks and months ahead.
I was just wondering if you guys had any sort of ETA on this patch, like not necessarily the exact hour
Oh,
or minute, but just like, loose idea of like what day people can expect this patch to come out.
I mean,
that's a
we
good
don't.
question.
We don't.
I did see Age
But
of Noob in
do
chat
you?
as well as
Do
others
you?
are also wondering.
Yeah.
So, Eric, I
Do
don't
you
know.
know, Eric, when we're planning to roll out this patch?
I do.
Okay.
But
We
you're
are
not going to
rolling
tell
out
anyone,
the
right?
patch tomorrow.
Whoa. Okay.
Wow.
All
All
right.
right. Tomorrow,
It's
everyone.
tomorrow. Just to make it clear for any of our patch notes, it's gonna be within the Pacific time because we roll it out during when our team is around. Because no matter how much you make sure that things will go well. What's the law? Is it Murphy's law? No, not Murphy's law.
Yeah, anything that
Is it
can
Murphy's
go
Law?
Yeah.
wrong will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we make sure our team's around. So do expect it in the Pacific time during tomorrow Earth time. Yes, not
Yes.
Venus time.
But
That is correct.
Pacific Earth time, to be specific.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Pacific Earth time. So that will be that. So thank you for letting us know, Eric. We will obviously let people know on socials. The patch notes will be updated within the game client itself, so you'll know that it's live. So yeah, and then just trying to look through chat here. What about Jupiter time? I actually don't know what Jupiter time is, so just saying, yeah, it's thank you, Elmo, for bringing that up, or if not Venus time or whatever it is. Yeah, so patch will be coming out tomorrow, as well as yeah. So if there's any more questions, please let us know. Otherwise, we cannot make it tomorrow already. Unfortunately, we do not have a time machine here that can force people to move forward. Yeah, and
Well,
now
we
we're
do, but
diving
we can
into
only move forward at the normal rate of 1 second per second.
Yeah, 1 second per second. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. A good way to do a time skip, pro tip, is to go to bed. That's a great time skip too.
Oh yeah, it goes by really fast.
Or just play
Yeah.
some
Right.
games.
For sure. Yeah, games. Yeah, games works too, So okay, so looking at this, we're just gonna quickly check our dev chat here, see if there's anything else that popped up question wise.
While Eliot's doing that, I will
Yeah.
say as well, all of these patch notes, everything we've talked about, it is on the Age of Empires website there under the blog, so you can go and read these. You can go ignore everything Eric said if you want. Go read them yourself and make up your own reasons in your head if you really want. But all of this will be available for you tomorrow at some time in Pacific time to get your hands on and get in game.
Yeah, and part of the reason we do these developer notes is to let you guys know, like, here's the direction of the game, here's what we're trying to achieve. So if there's any of these where, it's like, oh, this is what we're trying to do, and you play the game and you're like, this is just not happening at all, like, no one's doing this, like, please give us the feedback, please let us know, please post and share your thoughts on the game.
Yeah, and for feedback, definitely you can, if you're on the Discord, you can share it there, you can talk to people there, but we do prefer, if at all possible, for feedback to stick to the forums, just because it's easier for us to notice trends when people are talking about the same thing. If there's an existing thread, just please add to that. Sharing your thoughts, your feedback, your opinions, all of this is great. Yeah, because it just keeps it in one spot that we can share with the team and they can understand better as well from that. But yeah, once you get your hands on it, definitely do share your feedback. Let us know if we're moving in the right direction. Let us know if these developer notes sit well with you, if they're in the right direction, how things feel. I mean, it's one of those things. When you get more players, when you get this into your hands, it's testing at a whole different scale. And as I like to say, Eric loves consuming all of that data that comes in.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And and sorry, I just wanted to mention one more big thing. Nilly's Apartment Cup 4, right, is coming up. We're definitely super excited to be able to watch it. Not only that, but we also have the Golden League that's coming from the EGC as well. So we got two major, big tournaments coming up for H4. So we're really excited to watch that. I know our team's chat blows up with each match, so I do expect forward to looking at that. Even though it's the weekend and all, so it is what it is. Yeah, the only thing I'll leave for the chat here before we wrap things up here is that if you recall, we did provide a roadmap update. Near launch time, we are hitting the springtime soon, so we're going to be looking to update the community on that. So keep an eye on that when we do get that out to you all. We'll definitely be putting it onto our socials. So if you aren't following us on socials, please do so. Twitter.com/Age of Empires, Facebook.com/Age of Empires, our Age of Empires game on Instagram, and obviously the forums and are also great ways to keep track and continue the conversation after this stream. So
Yeah.
we'll be looking forward to getting the roadmap out, a new updated roadmap to you all. So please stay tuned. Otherwise, I think that's kind of it. Patches tomorrow. Thank you, Eric, for just letting us know about that. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else. Eric, Grant, anything else before we wrap things up here?
I'm just excited to see how players enjoy these new China changes, and I think a lot of cool strategies and options and potential open up. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoy it.
Yeah. Once you get your hands on it tomorrow, let us know. We'll be keeping an eye on feedback. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us. Pleasure to have all of you here watching. Also, super thankful, Eric, to steal some of your precious time to have you on stream with us as we go over this with the community. And I am sure the community loves to see you here. They're always, oh, here's Eric. I did see a question where your pants were today, though. They were on the rack behind you before last stream. People love staring at the background of your webcam. They're like, "What's going on back there?"
There's a lot of things going on, right? It's
Yeah, mine is very basic.
It took
They're
a
asking
while, but they finished drying, so I've moved the pants to my dresser or whatever.
What is that blue thing behind you? That's what someone asked.
Other side, I think.
This blue thing?
Yeah. No, not that. We know that. We showed that last time. We have it too. But I'm talking about the other blue thing.
Oh, that's a Space Marine.
Oh, so whoever said Jim Raynor or Space Marine.
Oh, they're
I'm
right.
assuming from StarCraft.
Yeah. They're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Whoever said that got it right. Good job.
Yep.
Whoever noticed that. So, okay.
All right.
I think that's it.
On that
Thank you, Eric. Thanks, Grant, for hosting us.
Thank you, everyone.
Till next
for
time,
joining.
y'all.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.